Hello, everyone. I
Oh my God.
hope you can see and hear me fine. Is the sound okay?
Perfect.
It's all great.
Thank you. Cool. Thanks for that. Welcome. So for those that joined last time, welcome back. And for the people that have joined for the first time today, it's so nice to see some new faces and names. Just quickly before we start, just a reminder to make sure your mics are muted. And then when we get going, just it's best to grab hold of my little screen and pin my screen so that you can see me in full screen when we do a bit of practice just now. And then also I did add some notes to the chat already just about participating in a poll, which you can do even after the session on LinkedIn, or just in the chat, you can add your option to that. And the last thing that I spoke about in the chat was at the first session, I shared a bit about my story, my self-discovery story that started about 10 years ago. And I've created a little video about that story because I just wanted to share a lived experience in terms of how yoga and mindfulness played such a big part in my journey and in my transformation. So there's a link to that video, and you can watch that if you're interested at some point. Okay, so those are the things that I wanted to share with all of you before we start. And yeah, and I'm hoping that we can get into some of the discussion about mindfulness and its role in mental health in the organizational space. So we're going to get to that just now. Okay, so just in terms of getting started, as usual, I like to just bring us to this place in this moment and do a bit of centering so that we can experience a mindfulness start to the session. So if you are sitting on a chair, perhaps sit a little bit forward from the backrest so that your back can be nice and straight. If you're sitting on a mat or floor like me, then sit comfortably, sitting nice and tall, but make sure your shoulders are relaxed. Often when we sit tall, the shoulders sort of tend to creep up to the ears, so just check in with that. Take your hands to your knees. If you're on the chair, make sure both feet are on the floor if that's possible, and that they're equally weighted. So try and be nice and aligned. And then if it's comfortable for you, we can bring our eyes to close for a moment. Just gently close. And if you prefer to keep them open, just a soft gaze is also perfectly fine. We're going to take a few moments just to try and feel what the present experience is like. What is the body telling you? Do you have any discomfort, perhaps? Maybe a bit of tightness? And the purpose is just to become aware of that. We don't want to wish it away, or we don't want it to be any different. It's just about observation. And if you do come across anything that you're experiencing in the body, just acknowledge it, honor it, and accept it as it is. Notice if the mind is very busy. And again, if it is, we don't try and change it. We just observe for a while the types of thoughts that are coming in and out of our minds. Now, lastly, we draw our attention to our breath. See if you can notice the sound of your own breath. And when we breathe, we breathe gently through the nostrils. So try and take the inhale and the exhale through the nostrils, nice and slowly. Takes a bit of concentration to listen to the sound of your own breath. Start to notice the physical experience, the expansion of the body as you breathe in, and the gentle contraction as you breathe out. Just take a few more moments just to notice your breathing. And then now gently flicker your eyes open. Perhaps take one last deep breath inside out the mouth now. So deep breath in and just sigh it out, completely letting go. I want to do a bit of a warm-up stretch exercise just to get the body awakened. So it's a simple exercise. We take our arms out at shoulder height. Try and activate the fingers so you're almost pulling in opposite directions, which then activates the arms. And then flip the one palm up, so the other one's down and the one is up. So just start like that. Notice the experience of that. And then very slowly we're switching. So the other one goes down and the other one goes up. So rotating. Always one palm facing up, one palm facing down. And now let's start introducing the breath with it. So inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Find that rhythm. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And now maybe a little bit of movement. Inhale, exhale, sideways movement. Inhale, exhale. Always rotating the palms. Be free with whatever you want to do with the movement. Let's do 3 more. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Take a nice deep breath in and lift the arms straight up to the ceiling. Activate the fingers so we're stretching our body out of our hips. We're trying to come right out the hips. And then on the exhale, just take your hands down to your knees again. Okay. I hope that got us a little bit feeling some warmth in the body, maybe a little bit of relaxation across the shoulders. Make sure your shoulders are still nice and relaxed. Okay, everyone. So I want to now just go into the topic of today. There's a little video that I want to share to start. Okay, this is, some of you may have seen this before. It's a cute little clip from the Montague workshop. So I'm going to start it off and you guys just, hopefully you can hear it and see it.
Beef died for navigating too much to eat.
Some days life can be challenging.
See tomato and hurry.
Sometimes you must declare it's all too much to eat.
Too much to process, too much to see,
too much to handle, too much cat pee.
I don't even own a cat.
When you look at life and too muchery abounds.
Pause. Listen to your breath and the way that sounds.
Reach out to people. All the friends you can think of.
Because
Absurd times calls for absurd amounts of love. So remember, dear friend,
there's no need to worry.
together we are more than enough.
For all the too much me.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit of a intro in terms of the discussion today, mindfulness in the context of mental health in the workplace. And in fact, we will see that it's not just about the workplace. Okay, so we're going to start having a look at the content today. And so we're looking at improved mental health. And for me, the key part of mental health in the workplace is something that is often not provided or experienced in the workplace. And that is getting to a place where there is empathy and compassion as a culture almost within the organization. So many of the programs we see lately, particularly because since COVID happened and since working from home happened, we're seeing that mental health is really a high priority in terms of the organizational focus. But if we consider the types of programs that are being introduced, often about awareness, often it's a bit of psychoeducation, trying to take away the stigma around being open and transparent with mental health in the workplace. But many of these programs, even though they can be repeated, are not going to fundamentally shift the way that people feel about each other, and to the extent where they can be open enough and feel empathy to reach out to each other, and whether that's coming from a leadership to a team member or whether it's just colleagues. So I feel like there's a piece that's missing, and for me that piece is about awareness, about improved awareness, and this is where mindfulness comes into play. So if we recall from the first session, and for those that are mindfulness practitioners, we know that mindfulness is all about awareness. It starts with awareness and ends with awareness. So if we are able to cultivate a deeper level of awareness within individuals in the workplace, right across all levels, for me, that's going to be the missing piece that makes any type of mental health program or initiative in the workplace more sustainable, and will actually make a significant difference in terms of the overall well-being of the organization, but overall levels of joy and teams being able to work together because there's an additional level of trust because of that empathy that we build via mindfulness. So in my mind, if we're looking at achieving improved mental health, a first step is trying to instill improved awareness. So improved awareness equals improved mental health. So it's quite a bold statement, that little equation, but I want to delve into that a little bit more and talk about why that is, and unpack the elements of mindfulness so that we can see how that translates into improved mental health. Okay, so the first point that I want to talk about is that this awareness is not just about self-awareness. The awareness that we practice in mindfulness is about everything, and it starts with becoming more aware of the detail of our surroundings and our everyday life, appreciating the small things that we may have missed in life, in nature, if you take a walk, starting to become a lot more aware of everything that we see and feel and experience. And what happens over time is that we start to notice new things that bring us joy. We start to see special little moments that we never would have seen before, whether it's a passing smile, whether it's a new plant that we didn't notice in our garden, whether it's the sound of the wind in the trees. We start to notice things that bring us joy. So that attention to detail of our surroundings is quite a key aspect for developing a mindfulness practice. Ultimately, the end state is increased joy, and we also get a feeling that we want to practice self-care more. We want to take care of ourselves more. And therefore we get to reduce stress. So if we move to the self-awareness part, we start to become more and aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. But a key thing within the mindfulness practice is to not judge what we see. And it's hard to not judge, but it is a key element of mindfulness, is to observe without judgment. We purposefully practice compassionate acceptance. So even if we find things that we do not like about ourselves, we try to accept with compassion. And then over time, once we've built that acceptance, we can then look to what things do we want to adjust, what things do we want to let go of that don't serve us. And interestingly enough, what happens is that compassion that we have for us, for ourselves, starts to spill over in terms of how we perceive others. So typically in a workplace environment, we may get on with some people and not with others, and there's preconditioning in terms of our thoughts and how we perceive the world that affect who those people are that we feel we get on with and which ones we don't, or where we feel compassion for and who we don't. But as we start to practice that compassionate acceptance, that non-judgment with ourselves, it just organically and naturally starts to spill over to others. And you'll start to notice that in your engagements. People that previously may have irritated you, perhaps you find you a little bit more patient. So that compassionate acceptance starts to spill over, and that non-judgment starts to spill over in terms of how you perceive others, because you've noticed that it helped you to practice that non-judgment. And then gently again, once you've got to that level of self-compassion and compassion for others, that is when working with others to address areas of attention. Maybe the areas of attention are biases. Maybe the areas of attention are, just things that get in the way of team cohesion. These things we can work on, but we can work on them in a way that is constructive, that leaves people feeling intact, because we've come off this foundation of compassionate acceptance. So we see outcomes of happiness levels increase in ourselves, because we are experiencing the environment, because we're finding new things that bring us joy. We're starting to see improved relationships, and the key is that the empathy levels and the humility levels start to increase. And if we can work on that, if we can build that level of foundation, the specific mental health programs that are introduced have got a far better chance of being effective and being sustainable. So that is really the formula that I'm talking about in terms of mindfulness, which is all about awareness, is the key and almost the starting point to mental health in the workplace. So what are we aiming for? What does the environment look like if we introduce mindfulness as almost like the stepping stone for improved mental health? Well, we look for an environment where self-care is prioritized above tasks. And these are quite fundamental. They seem obvious, but they're quite fundamental in terms of change in the organization. So self-care trumps giving 110%. Empathy and humility become encouraged as key values rather than power struggles and ego, which often we find in the organization. Transparency regarding our own mental health status is what we want to find in an organization that has got a strong mindfulness-based mental health improvement program. And particularly if this comes from the leadership, if you have leaders that are talking about their own struggles, talking about perhaps some of their children's struggles, and being open and sharing of their experiences and what they did to overcome that and what self-care practices they're doing. If the CEO and the leadership team are talking about these things, it just has a tremendous ripple effect all the way down, and people start to feel like it's safe. I can do this. I can share my experiences. So that's what we're aiming for. One of the big things is becoming more self-aware. As I said earlier, inevitably you identify areas of yourself that need work, the areas of yourself that actually you're not too impressed with, and we need psychological safety within the organizations for these areas to be identified and addressed without shame, without blame. So if somebody has got some unconscious biases that are now revealed themselves, we want to know that it's okay for them to be able to say, this is what I came up with and I need help. I need to work on this because it's affecting how I manage my team. It's affecting how I recruit people. So mindfulness, because it has that non-judgment element, that compassionate self-acceptance, regardless of what you find, if you instill that as a culture, we can work with some of these really tricky and sensitive things in a way that's a lot more safe and keeps people intact. And then obviously we want to see mindfulness facilities and programs being seen as integral to employee wellness and also as a contributor to performance of the organization. So this is what we are aiming for in the environment. And in terms of what do we need to do, how do we go there? First prize is for the CEO and the leadership team to embark on a mindfulness journey, for them to start experiencing mindfulness, for them to become more self-aware and to start feeling that self-compassion and to start identifying their blind spots and their areas of attention. If the leadership team are able to embark on this journey, the rest just follows. It just follows without any real effort. However, that's not always possible. So in my mind, it doesn't matter how you start, just make a start, even if it's within a department or a team, getting together at your sort of break time or whatever, virtually or face-to-face if the people are back in the office, and just start an easy mindfulness practice where we observe our breath, where we perhaps follow the practice with a bit of sharing of what that experience was like, and slowly it will just grow. So the key thing is just to make a start, preferably from leadership down, but making a start is important. And then some key actions that can be taken almost immediately. And so to look at policies and practice that should be changed. So terminology is quite key here. Like if you are recruiting people and if you are doing performance appraisals and you've got words like phrases like going the extra mile or multitasking or being comfortable in a stressful environment, if those are key words that you are expecting and putting out there to your teams, that are big red flags in terms of mental health. We don't want to be saying this is what we expect from you. We don't want to be saying that you need to be comfortable in a stressful environment. What we want to be doing is dealing with the stressful environment, taking that stress away. So so look out for those key words, those key policies that may need to be adjusted, like changing working hours, increasing flexi time, little to no overtime. Policies need to reflect people care rather than efficiency. So have a look at policies where actually the policy is all about driving efficiencies, and start to eradicate those and swap them out for policies that are around caring for your people. And one of the things I've seen work pretty well is formally inviting the employees to communicate unreasonable workload and stress. So it's like a continuous reminder, please, and maybe that's part of like an electronic survey or something, but continuously say, let us know if you are feeling overworked, if your workload's too much, and if you're feeling stressed. They take a while, most employees take a while to trust that process in terms of being able to say openly, yes, I'm struggling. But it is something that you could in place and start measuring the response over time. And then what is key is to train the team leads and managers to identify the signals of burnout within their teams. You can start seeing the energy levels go down, the mistakes start to pick up, even mistakes that are avoidable that you would not expect from people staying off more than usual. The irritability factor is a bit higher. People are getting a little bit edgy and a bit annoyed with people. Look out for those signs, because it's usually a sign of high stress and burnout on the way. So we need to train our team leads and managers to look out for that. The other thing that can be done quite quickly and is very useful is pause campaigns. So everywhere you see, if it's physically in the office, posters up, pause, pause to stretch and breathe. So, and if it's virtually, we can send those posters out virtually. We can send automatic reminders, take a pause, take a breathe, take a stretch. So those pause campaigns are about the employees feeling that the organization does actually care about their mental health. They're encouraging me to take a pause, rather than perhaps in the old way of thinking is the employees feel like that they feel guilty if they take a break or get up and walk outside. So we want to flip that, and employees to start feeling like they have permission and it's encouraged, actually. So another action item is to provide the organization to sponsor counseling around stress and anxiety and burnout, and not necessarily in-house counseling, because I do know that a lot of organizations has that, but there's also a trust issue there sometimes in terms of I'm seeing the organizational appointed counselor, and what I share gets back to the bosses. And so maybe consider it's paid by the organization, but the employees can choose who they go to see. And then storytelling. I love the concept of storytelling in terms of an organization that has adopted mindfulness as a way of being. And that is about people being comfortable to share their struggles and share what they do for self-practice. What do they do on the weekends? What do they do every evening? How do they find some level of peace and calmness? So that storytelling is something that we can encourage people to do. And maybe there's a monthly slot where somebody says, I want to tell my story this month. So that storytelling, it's an incredible way to encourage people to share and to feel that it's okay to have issues, you know, because we all do, rather than hide them and struggle with them alone. And then I like this concept of changing the brag conversations. I can recall even myself years back where we used to brag about the long hours we worked, the whole weekend we worked. It was like, you know, it was like something that we said out loud to get like a pat on the back or to get recognized. We don't want that anymore. We want people to not be saying that. We wanted people to be bragging about the joy they experienced on the weekend and the things that they did to take themselves out of that doing mode into a being mode and a self-care mode. So these are just some of the things that I feel people can implement in organizations quite quickly without much effort. You know, there's not a significant amount of investment in this, and you can get going quite quickly. And they all make a big difference. I wanted to do a little practice, and this practice is a breathing practice, and it's something that you can use anytime. It's brief, it takes a few minutes, and we use it to balance the hemispheres of the brain, and we also use it to sort of defog the brain. So if you've got an important meeting, or if you're wanting to be clear-headed for any reason, this breathing exercise is pretty useful. So it's called alternate nostril breathing. And I'll take you through it. You take your right hand and you take your index finger and your middle finger. Those fingers find their way to the center of your forehead, in between your eyebrows. And then you want to free up your ring finger and your thumb. Those need to be able to move. So the index finger and the middle finger on your forehead, and your ring finger and thumb are free to move. So just try that. Just get the placement of the hands so long. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to start by using the ring finger to block the left nostril. And when I say block, it's not pushing it hard, it's just gently blocking. And now all we're going to do is breathe through the right nostril. So the ring finger is just gently blocking the left nostril. Right, the thumb is just away from the nose for now. So just breathing through the right nostril, left nostril slightly blocked. If there's a bit of congestion, that's okay. Just breathe easy, don't force it. And now we're going to swap. So we're going to let go of the left nostril, and we're going to block the right nostril with the thumb, gently blocking, and we're just breathing through the left nostril now. Easy, smooth breath. In a moment, we're going to start alternating. So continue to breathe through the left nostril. And now inhale through the left, block the left, and exhale out the right nostril. Inhale through the right nostril, block the right, and exhale through the left. Inhale through the left, block the left, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, block the right, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left, block the left, exhale through the right. Just continue in your own rhythm, your own time. Continue with that alternating. And then take your hands back to your knees and just breathe normally for a moment. Try to observe now what you feel like. What does the headspace feel like? What's the body feel like? And now lastly, we're going to take that same experience, but we're going to not use our hands, and we're going to just try and focus on breathing into one lung at a time. So we have this capability of directing the breath into one of the lungs. It's not 100%, but it's mostly going into one side of the lung. So we'll start on the left side. So all you're going to do is visualize, concentrate, and when you take your breath in, feel the left lung expanding. And we're just breathing into the left lung from now. So we're breathing in and out through the nose. And we start on the left. So it's just taking focus now to get that air into that left lung. One more on that side. And then let's swap. We're trying to take the breath now into the right lung. Last breath. Just breathing normally. Again, just noticing any sensations. Okay. I hope that was interesting for you. That alternate nostril is definitely something that you can use to be just a little bit clearer when you're going to go into something important, or you want to have do a bit of defogging of the brain. Okay, so I wanted to again share with you the possible discussions for next week, next month, and then also just the work that I do. So I'm just going to pop back onto the slides. So we are currently doing the workplace mental health focus. So some of the topics that I've put down as potential for next month is mindfulness at work in terms of leadership effectiveness, mindfulness as a personal healing modality. I do a lot of work in this space, and mindfulness for enhancing our intuition. And that's obviously relevant to both work and private capacity. Mindfulness is a very strong way of increasing our sense of knowing and intuition. So those are the ones. I'll just leave it for you guys to put into the chat, or send me an email, and I will consider what people are looking for next month. And then briefly, I wanted to cover what work I do. So I'm obviously a yoga instructor, so I teach yoga wherever I can, as much as I can. At gyms, yoga studios, schools, out in the park, wherever I can teach yoga. I love teaching yoga. I do mindfulness facilitation, so I do workshops like these and go into corporates. I do a bit of mindfulness education in corporates as well as practices. I do individual healing, so people that are struggling with anxiety, depression, addiction recovery. I work with people one-on-one using a strong mindfulness base for that. I integrate my counseling and my psychology degree with my yoga and mindfulness, and we help individuals release whatever it is that's holding them back. I've also developed a 10-week program called Journey to Joy, which is aimed at individuals and group, but in the private capacity. And the individuals go through a whole phase of deepening self-awareness through to that compassionate acceptance that I was talking about earlier, through to healing and then transformation. I do pro bono counseling and pro bono mentoring. And then in terms of the workplace well-being, the work that I offer is around often around burnout. So burnout prevention. How do we put measures in place? How do we get people to observe a more balanced lifestyle? However, some people have already got to that point and are struggling to get back to work or struggling to just function. So we do burnout recovery. These are all mindfulness-based interventions. And then obviously I also help leadership with their journey with mindfulness, to get mindfulness instilled into the organization and for their own personal development, becoming more self-aware, as we spoke about, understanding their biases, understanding their blind spots, understanding perhaps things that get in the way of them being effective leaders. The deepening of the self-awareness uncovers that, but it's just the start. How do we move forward in a way that's safe and for them to not feel threatened by the process? I also do mindfulness-based team building, so activities that are fun and healthy in terms of team get-togethers. And then lastly, I offer my services as a mindfulness officer for organizations that can't really afford to hire somebody. I mean, there's big organizations that nowadays have chief mindfulness officers, but some organizations just need somebody to come in and help them get started. So those are the different types of work that I do, and people can contact me if they want to find out a bit more about those. Okay, so I want to end off with a closing practice, and really just encouraging you to again find some length in your spine, sit tall, relax the shoulders, and bring the eyes to close. And when you do, just focusing on your breath. So just listening out for your breath, feeling the inhales and exhales come in and out of your nostrils. So bringing your eyes to close. And while you do that, I'm going to read a passage from this book, my favorite book, called Journey to the Heart from Melody Beattie. So try and find a bit of stillness now while you listen out for your breath. This passage is called Make Today a Healing Day. Take time for healing. Take time for what soothes your body, your mind, your soul. Take a bath, light a candle, read a book, take a walk, get a massage. See your favorite healer if you desire. See a movie. Buy some flowers. Drink a cup of tea. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of doing something healing for ourselves. We're too busy. We're too tired. But that is when we most need to take care of ourselves. Listen to your heart. What does it want? Listen to your body. What does it need? Trust what you hear. Make today a healing day. Then take some time and make every day a healing day. Let's take a nice last deep breath in and sigh it out. And then you're welcome to turn on your cameras if you wish, just to say a quick bye. Have a lovely day further, guys.